Don't make yourself or your loved ones pay full price for a Windows key. Instead, head on over to VIPyourCDKey.com and buy a Windows 10 or a Windows 11 key for super cheap. Just make sure to use the code TS20 to get that discount. And after checking out, go into the User Center section up top, then navigate to your orders and then click on the Reveal Key to reveal the CD key, and then copy and paste this into the Windows activation settings and you're good to go. Well, here we are, the ultimate floating desk setup tour like I promised you guys. Naturally, you will have some questions, maybe even some concerns, but I'm here to tell you that everything will make sense in due time. But until then, sit back and relax and let's dive into my ultimate dream setup tour version 2. To say this was the most ambitious project I have ever took in my life would simply be an understatement. I have poured my heart and soul into this project and really every setup that I built for myself. My goal has always been to make the best setup for me and only me, while achieving this undeniable trademark that's embedded deep in the DNA that when you see this setup, you know it belongs to me. Something that's not so easy to replicate. Something that no sane person out there would attempt because practicality is not a part of the equation. So to kick off the tour, the entire setup is being held up by a custom built frame that I designed with the help of my buddy Danny from the Discord server. The original idea came from Eric, who was a contestant from a previous Setup Wars episode, and immediately I fell in love with the idea. You see, my previous setup already was floating in the loose sense of the word because I was using standard triangle brackets to provide support to the table, but I hated how obvious that looked. You can easily tell what was supporting the desk, breaking the illusion of the floating look I was trying so hard to achieve. In Eric's case, it was an all-in-one frame that attaches to the wall that not only supports the headboard, but also the tabletop, eliminating the need for additional support underneath the desk. But there was one big problem. I knew for a fact that his frame is not going to be strong enough to support my gear and both my tabletops. So I decided to design my very own custom frame. I pulled Danny from our server, who was the mastermind behind the 3D renders, and I basically told him what I want to build. So using my setup knowledge and his 3D modeling skills, we both cooked up a beautiful, one-of-a-kind custom frame, which I then took to my local welding shop and had it fabricated in about 2 weeks. Then I brought it back home and I mounted it against the wall and attached both the tabletop and the headboard to it. There's obviously a lot more that went into the entire process, which I can't fit in this video, so if you guys are intrigued and or are bored and you want something to watch, feel free to check out the 4 videos I made on the entire setup where I go over everything from start to finish. And well, let's just say the frame is strong enough to support the entire setup and also myself. At the heart of the setup are my quad monitors. We have a 4K 240Hz 32-inch display as my primary, with a 39-inch ultra-wide as an overhead, and then two 27-inch 1440p 240Hz monitors for my verticals. All displays are OLED for consistency in color, and they are all plugged into my custom water-cooled PC that's mounted on the wall above it all. It's got a bit of outdated specs, featuring a 14900KS processor with 96 gigs of RAM and the RTX 4090. However, all of this will be replaced in the next few months with an entirely new system. The biggest concern and hate that I've received for my setup has to do with the spacing of my monitors. Too much spacing between the monitors seems to be what's driving the people insane. And look, I get it, okay? When people see something online or in a video that they're not used to or didn't experience in person, they tend to have an allergic reaction to it. Would I prefer the monitors seamlessly connected? Yes, of course, that's how my last setup was. But I sacrificed audio in exchange. This time, I'm not doing it. I use my speakers quite a bit, and in fact, I'm blasting music 100% of the time while working. It's what gets me through the day, and I can confidently say having them in the center and tilted up towards me is night and day compared to the previous location. The spacing between the monitors does not bother me. I mean, it did for the first few hours because I simply was not used to them, but the more I used the setup, the more natural it felt. I'm able to see all the contents on all the monitors by simply rotating my head. No tilting, no leaning forward is necessary. Everything has been planned and executed so that my head follows the curved path of the monitors from one side to the other. In other words, the distance of the monitors remains constant. Now, if I want to bring a window from one side of the monitor to the other, I simply drag it through the ultralight using it as a bridge. The primary monitor is about 32 inches away from me, which is about the depth of the desk, which might seem far, but the screen size compensates the distance, and it feels more like a 27-inch monitor from a closer distance instead of a 32-inch. With that said, however, reaching the gear towards the back is far, and I do have to lean in to do that, which is far from ideal. However, once again, I do have a solution. I purposely left enough cable slack behind the headboard so that I can bring over any of the devices so it's easier to reach. This way I get the best of both worlds. The convenience of reaching the buttons while maintaining the clean aesthetic when it's not in use. Aside from the Stream Deck Plus, I've also added the new Logitech Creative Console to my arsenal, which helped improve my overall workflow. The Creative Console comes in two pieces. The first one is a tiny little pad that features 9 customizable LCD keys and 2-page navigation buttons, while the second one is a dial pad that's connected via Bluetooth. Both of them join forces to amplify my productivity. With the button pad, I can customize macros, shortcuts, and even display hardware information. They have an entire marketplace filled with tons of useful plugins that you can download. The Libre hardware monitor is actually one of my favorites because I can display certain sensors right on the LCD screen for convenience. I like using the Creative Console the most because of its smaller compact size. Especially the dial pad being wireless comes in clutch. I currently have the dial pad programmed specifically for my Discord. I can toggle mute, set my audio devices depending on if I'm in a game or in a meeting, and if I hold down the action ring, that will open up a new set of shortcuts that I can customize. I'm not gonna lie, if you're a content creator who uses mostly Adobe software, then you can benefit from this a lot more because the console seamlessly integrates with Adobe Suite and other creative tools. So next to the Creative Console, I have my remote power switch that powers on my PC, and on the other side is my audio interface that's currently powering all of my audio devices. We got the Audio-Technica M50Xs in white, the RE20 Electro Voice microphone, and my Kanto Tuck speakers. On my previous setup, I used the SteelSeries Arctis 7s because they were wireless. It's as simple as that. But I just couldn't do that anymore because my ears deserve better, okay? And there's no better sound than wired headphones. And this is coming from someone who prefers wireless everything, okay? There are certain things where you just have to go wired if you don't want to sacrifice quality. And my pair of cans are one of them. The microphone is also the same one I've been using for the past few years, simply because it's one of the best mics in the market and I am completely happy with the quality. So why change things that work? Except the color. Of course, I had to paint in white for obvious reasons. The mic is being held up by a modded Thrawn Max boom arm, which has a low profile design and includes a nice little raceway to help me keep the XLR cable hidden. And finally, the speakers have also been the same for several years. Heavy on the bass, clear on the highs, absolutely love the sound quality these produce, and unless they break down, I am not changing them anytime soon. Moving on to peripherals. So my daily driver is the ROG Azoth Extreme keyboard that's been painted in white, and that is paired with a new Razer Viper Signature Edition mouse, which is the perfect addition to my setup. It comes in a super premium case with a satisfying metal latch, which is pretty cool in itself, but this mouse actually uses a special anti-yellowing coating, so it's going to maintain the clean white color throughout its lifespan. But apart from that, it's super sleek and lightweight thanks to its magnesium alloy exoskeleton. It's also incredibly fast, and for someone who plays FPS games competitively, I don't settle for anything less than the best. With a 30K optical sensor paired with an 8000 Hz polling rate, the Viper Mini makes the perfect sidekick to my Azoth Extreme board. I also love the fact that it comes with gripping tape and glass feet, which I ended up switching to. The glass feet makes a world of a difference, especially on our TechSource mousepad. It glides like butter, and I've actually noticed a difference in my gameplay. I'm more quicker and my aim's better. Maybe it's a placebo from holding something small and light, but I've been getting more dubs on the finals for sure. The current mousepad of choice is our new proximity alert design, which comes in a bunch of different color schemes, but if I get bored of this and I want to switch over to something a bit darker, I bring out the koi design. But that's the beauty of our mousepads. We have a ton of really great designs to choose from, so I never get bored of the same designs. So aside from the Azoth Extreme and the Viper Mini, which are used mainly for gaming, I also have another set of peripherals specifically for productivity, like the MX Master 3S and the MX Mechanical Mini. The MX Master 3S has been in my setup for many years now, and it's my absolute go-to for productivity simply because of the Hyper Scroll Wheel, which allows me to go through pages quickly. However, I don't like how tall the mouse is, and to me it's a little uncomfortable. So to combat that, I pair it with the Delta Hub Carpio, which brings my wrist higher at a more comfortable angle with the mouse. The MX Mechanical Mini, on the other hand, is just a fun keyboard to type on because of its low profile linear switches and how light and compact it is. Also, since I'm able to connect up to 3 devices via Bluetooth, I always move this between my office and studio. Between my outer monitors, I have my wireless mini Elgato key lights and the Elgato face cam for meetings and streams. The Elgato key lights are attached via MagSafe, allowing me to detach them whenever I need to charge them, and the Elgato face cam is hooked up against the headboard. I'm also able to control the brightness and the temperature of the lights using the Elgato Control Center. I do have a 7-port USB hub attached underneath the desk, and this acts as a highway directly to my PC for when I need to plug in USB drives, SD cards, or other devices without having to reach my PC. On the other side is a pencil drawer that stores all of my daily essentials, like my computer glasses and my power bank. This is used mainly to charge my wireless peripherals and my Elgato key lights when needed. The cable I use to connect the charger to my devices is neatly managed using a magnetic cable tie, which is reusable and comes in very handy for general cable management. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and talk about the cable management. The custom frame has been designed with cable management in mind. There are 1-inch cutouts on each side of the beams that allow me to pass through the cables comfortably, and using the cable ties, I'm able to keep the cables flush against the desk. Near the back of the frame, there are 1-inch slits on both horizontal beams that give me the option of tucking away loose and excess cables, but also the option to simply pull them out if I need to swap my gear in the future. And finally, let's talk about the lighting, which is very important in every setup because lighting brings your setup to life. It adds character. It sets the mood. I have 1 Elgato strip underneath my desk and 2 more behind the headboard, which I'm able to control using the app on my phone, but I also have 3 different sets of budget Nanoleaf lines on the wall. Unfortunately, I found out the hard way that I can only connect 15 lines per controller, so I ended up adding 12 on each side and 3 in the middle, totaling 27 lines and 3 separate controllers. The app is super simple and allows for quite a bit of customization and voice commands via Google Voice or Alexa, but the only thing I don't like is that you can't sync all of your lights together. You have to control each set of lights separately, but again, I'm not complaining because I'd much rather pay a fraction of the price for these instead of paying $200 for 9 lines. Nanoleaf is out of their mind. The last piece of lighting I recently added was behind my primary display, and this basically synchronizes with whatever is on my screen in real time up to 20 frames per second. It adds a bit of immersion when I'm watching movies or playing games, but I can also set a specific color if I'm trying to go with a specific color scheme. And that's the beauty of building a white theme setup. I can go with any color scheme I want. The setup may not be perfect, and it's certainly not your cup of tea, but it's perfect for me, and it's perfect for what I use it for. You could use a splash of personality and maybe some cozy items like a rug, but all of that will be added over time. What you are seeing here is the foundation of the setup, and it can only improve moving forward. Thank you guys so much for your support over the past few years. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to build something so crazy if it wasn't for you guys watching the video, so I do appreciate everything. I'll drop a link to everything I used in the setup and the order that they appeared in the video. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one.